Hello, and welcome to today's discussion on psychological reasons for the redundancy principle as presented in Chapter 7 of Clark and Myers' E-Learning and the Science of Instruction, Proven Guidelines for Consumers and Designers of Multimedia Learning. Let's begin by imagining your brain as a computer. Information goes in, it gets processed, and then you get an output. Pretty simple, right? But here's where it gets complex. Unlike computers, our brains don't have a neat little save button. This is where we turn to research behind designing effective multimedia instruction and how the application of these principles can lead to a stronger learner retention of the material and effectively achieve the intended learning outcomes. According to Clark and Meyer, this is exactly why redundancy in multimedia instruction can cause problems. The redundancy principle tells us that learners understand better when graphics are paired with spoken narration, but not identical on-screen text. You might think that showing learners text while also narrating and displaying visuals makes the content clearer, but it often does the opposite. Adding redundant, printed words forces learners to split their attention and overloads the visual processing channel of working memory. In this case, less can actually be more, especially when it comes to combining text, visuals, and narration. Cognitive theory tells us that our brains process information through two limited channels, visual and auditory. When we put both graphics and printed text in the visual channel and then narration on top, we don't spread that load. We overload one channel while confusing both. Our working memory, much like our sensory memory, is limited. It holds only about 7 items for 20 to 30 seconds. This is also the reason behind why phone numbers are made up of just 7 digits, and why we're only able to remember a phone number for just long enough to dial it before it begins disappearing from our memory. That's not much time. Now imagine a student being asked to process an image, read identical on-screen text, and listen to that same text at the same time. The brain struggles. Not because the content is hard, but because the format is inefficient. That's the heart of the redundancy principle. When learners are given graphics and narration, adding identical on-screen text can actually impair learning. The brain spends its effort trying to match visual words to spoken ones, instead of focusing on understanding the image or idea. That's called extraneous cognitive processing, and it's mental energy not spent on learning. A more effective approach is to let each channel do what it does best. Show the visual, narrate the explanation. This way you're supporting a comprehension without overwhelming one sensory pathway. If your learners need printed words, like when introducing unfamiliar terms, those can be added sparingly and thoughtfully. So remember, more input isn't always better. Avoiding redundant visuals and text allows working memory to do its job, and by combining this cognitive approach with how we design multimedia lessons, we give learners the tools to not just remember, but to retain. Thank you for watching.